Imagine having a panic attack live in front of 5 million people. Your career, your reputation, everything on the line. That's exactly what happened to ABC News anchor Dan Harris. And it set him on a path involving war zones, megachurches, self-help gurus, 10 days of silence, and ultimately, meditation. Not the incense-burning, pan-flute kind, but a practical tool that made him, by his own modest estimate, 10% happier. Today, we'll unpack every chapter of his wild, funny, and surprisingly practical memoir and see what lessons we can take into our own lives. Dan Harris starts with brutal honesty. The voice in his head is an asshole. It's restless, critical, and never satisfied, just like most of ours. He thought meditation was for hippies, but life, through panic attacks and bad decisions, taught him otherwise. His mission? Demystify meditation and prove it can work even for skeptics. Chapter 1. Air Hunger. Dan Harris takes us straight into the most humiliating moment of his professional life. A panic attack during a live Good Morning America broadcast in 2004. He describes the terrifying physical symptoms, a wave of fear crashing over him, his heart pounding, mouth dry, palms sweating, all while trying to read the news from millions of viewers. His mind spirals. Everyone is seeing this. Do something. But the more he fights it, the worse it gets. In desperation, he cuts the segment short, fumbling the sign-off. This incident was the visible eruption of a deeper problem. Years of relentless work, chasing high adrenaline stories in war zones, a growing addiction to the rush of danger, and a slide into drug use. Cocaine and ecstasy, as a synthetic substitute when the action stopped. Harris connects the dots. The combination of unmanaged stress, thrill-seeking, and substance use primed him for panic. This was his wake-up call, though he didn't fully understand it yet. Chapter 2. Unchurched. Years earlier, legendary news anchor Peter Jennings had assigned Harris to the religion beat, despite Harris being a committed agnostic raised in an entirely secular household. His parents were medical professionals, politically left, and open about their disbelief. Religion was a cultural artifact to him, not a source of truth. Covering faith communities in America was initially awkward, even absurd. But after the 2004 re-election of George W. Bush, a victory largely credited to evangelical voters, Harris realized religion's influence on politics and global events was too important to ignore. He began reporting from megachurches, political rallies, and religious conferences, immersing himself in worlds far removed from his own upbringing. One encounter stands out: meeting Pastor Ted Haggard, a charismatic evangelical leader. Harris's skepticism remained intact, but curiosity took root. He started to see that faith, whether he agreed with it or not, was a massive force shaping people's lives. Chapter 3. Genius or Lunatic. Harris's exploration of spirituality takes a new turn when he meets Eckhart Tolle, author of The Power of Now. Initially intrigued by Tolle's calm demeanor and message about living fully in the present moment, Harris is struck by the simplicity and apparent practicality of the idea. Tolle teaches that much of human suffering comes from being trapped in thoughts about the past or future, rather than experiencing the present as it is. But as Harris digs deeper, his journalistic skepticism flares. Some of Tolle's claims seem vague, mystical, or unprovable. Harris finds himself wrestling with a central question. Can you extract valuable practices from spiritual teachings without adopting their entire worldview? This tension between skepticism and openness becomes a driving force in his search for a realistic approach to inner peace. Chapter 4. Happiness Incorporated. Harris dives headfirst into the bustling, billion-dollar self-help industry, an ecosystem where best-selling authors, charismatic speakers, and media personalities promise happiness, success, and meaning in life. He observes the magnetic pull of figures like Oprah, whose influence can turn a book into a cultural phenomenon overnight, and Deepak Chopra, who blends ancient Eastern ideas with westernized, science-sounding terminology. At first, Harris is intrigued. Chopra's words have a calming cadence, and some ideas about the mind-body connection make sense. But the more Harris listens, the more he notices a problem. Much of the content feels slippery, statements that sound profound but can't be easily proven or tested. His inner journalist keeps raising questions. Where's the evidence, and what's just marketing spin? This exploration plants an important seed. If he can filter the hype from the substance, perhaps he can find tools worth keeping. Chapter 5. The Jubu. Enter Mark Epstein, a psychiatrist who fuses Western psychotherapy with Buddhist philosophy. Epstein is refreshingly different from the grandiose, self-help personalities Harris has been encountering. There's no sales pitch for eternal bliss, no lofty promises of instant transformation. Instead, Epstein presents meditation as a grounded, secular practice, a mental exercise designed to help people understand and manage the relentless chatter of their minds. For Harris, this is a turning point. Epstein explains that thoughts are like passing weather patterns. They come and go, and we don't have to identify with them. This framing resonates deeply with Harris's skepticism. It doesn't require faith, only practice. Through Epstein, Harris starts to see meditation as less of a mystical ritual and more of a practical, science-compatible method for training attention and cultivating emotional resilience. Chapter 6. The Power of Negative Thinking. Epstein challenges one of the most deeply entrenched notions in Western self-help culture, that we should always think positively. Instead, he introduces Harris to a counterintuitive truth, the power of seeing things exactly as they are, even when they're unpleasant. Mindfulness, Epstein explains, is about clarity, not cheerfulness. It involves acknowledging fear, frustration, and sadness without trying to push them away or disguise them with forced optimism. Harris finds this idea liberating. He doesn't have to paste on a fake smile or repeat hollow affirmations. Instead, he can face reality head-on. This approach aligns with his natural temperament, skeptical, direct, and allergic to fluff. The insight that unpleasant emotions lose some of their control when observed mindfully becomes a cornerstone in Harris's evolving understanding of meditation's real-world value. Chapter 7. Retreat. Harris's exploration of mindfulness reaches a crucial test when he signs up for a 10-day silent meditation retreat led by Joseph Goldstein. The idea of sitting still without speaking or using any distractions for hours on end sounds almost unbearable to him. And in the beginning, it is. The first few days are marked by restlessness, back pain, and an overwhelming stream of thoughts. He cycles between boredom, self-criticism, and irritation, convinced he's doing it wrong. Meals are silent, simple, and eaten mindfully, which feels both alien and oddly calming. Gradually, small shifts occur. Harris begins to notice the subtle rhythms of his breath, the fleeting nature of thoughts, and the moments when he's fully present without even trying. By the end of the retreat, he experiences brief but powerful moments of calm clarity. Though far from enlightenment, he leaves with proof that attention is a skill that can be trained, and that the rewards, though modest at first, are deeply real. Chapter 8. 10% Happier. Returning home, Harris resists the urge to turn his life upside down. Instead, he adopts a simple, sustainable meditation habit, just a few minutes each day. He doesn't expect to become a saint or a guru, but he does start noticing changes. He's less reactive when challenged, more able to pause before speaking in tense moments, and better at recognizing when his mind is running away with him. These improvements don't erase life's problems, but they make them easier to handle. Harris captures this shift with a phrase that's humble yet catchy: 10% happier. It's not about perfection. It's about incremental improvement that compounds over time, a pitch that even a hardened skeptic can get behind. Chapter 9. The New Caffeine. As Harris deepens his practice, he's surprised to discover that meditation has infiltrated high-performance culture, embraced by CEOs, athletes, and even the military. Neuroscience backs the hype, with brain scans showing changes in regions linked to focus, emotional regulation, and compassion. This reframes meditation from a niche spiritual activity into a form of mental fitness, comparable to going to the gym. The new caffeine metaphor clicks with Harris. meditation can boost alertness and clarity without the jittery crash of coffee. He begins to see that selling meditation as a performance enhancer, grounded in science rather than mysticism, could open the door for skeptics who might never otherwise try it. Chapter 10. The Self-Interested Case for Not Being a Dick. Harris notices an unexpected side effect of meditation. His interactions with others begin to shift. He starts catching himself before making sharp or dismissive comments, especially in tense professional situations. This is not about becoming a saint. It's about realizing that kindness often pays immediate dividends. Being less abrasive reduces unnecessary conflicts, preserves working relationships, and even improves his reputation in the competitive newsroom. Harris begins to see compassion as a kind of strategic advantage, a skill that makes life smoother, negotiations easier, and leadership more effective. In this sense, not being a dick is not purely altruistic. It's self-interest in its smartest form, helping both the giver and the receiver. Chapter 11. Hide the Zen. Even as meditation starts to deliver real results, Harris is aware that openly discussing it in the hard-nosed, image-conscious world of television news could backfire. The industry isn't exactly known for embracing mindfulness talk, and he doesn't want to come across as preachy or overly spiritual. So, he keeps his practice under the radar, integrating it into his life quietly. His approach is to let the results speak for themselves: improved focus, calmer reactions, and better decision-making, without attaching them to overtly Zen branding. Harris also avoids the trappings that might alienate skeptics. No incense, no esoteric chants, no mysticism. Instead, he frames meditation as a practical, secular tool for managing the mind. This stealth approach allows him to share the benefits when appropriate, without turning people off before they've even given it a chance. Practical takeaways. 1. You can train your mind, just like your body. 2. Mindfulness is not equal to passivity. It's about clarity, not complacency. 3. Small daily habits add up. Even a few minutes of meditation makes a difference. 4. Compassion pays dividends in relationships and in performance. 5. Skepticism is healthy. You can take the tools and leave the dogma. Dan Harris went from panic attacks and drugs to a calmer, more intentional life, without losing his edge. If meditation can work for him, a fast-talking, skeptical TV journalist, maybe it can work for you too. Remember, you don't need to become 100% happier. Even 10% can change everything. If you enjoyed this deep dive into 10% happier, hit like, subscribe, and share this video with someone who might need a little more calm in their life. And tell me in the comments, have you ever tried meditation? And if so, what was your experience?